Bombshell of a story dropping via Sports Illustrated yesterday that has now gone into today with Jerry Richardson, the owner of the Carolina Panthers, putting the team up for sale. A little bit later on, we will show you who has a vested interest in buying this team. But here's the story in case you've been living under a rock for the past 24 plus hours. Via SI, according to sources, on multiple occasions, Richardson requested female employees to visit him during a workday in his suite. The women would be escorted by his assistant, who would then leave, leaving the owner alone with a junior employee. One former female employee recalls Richardson, who stands at 6'3", arriving barefoot and asking for a foot massage. Eek. And then continuing on, says one such invitee, the first time you thought it was an important meeting, you then realized it was never anything that couldn't be discussed over the phone. Others talk of Richardson giving back rubs that lingered too long or went too low down the spine. Richardson was also known for what multiple women call the, quote, seatbelt maneuver. He would invite female employees out to lunch, and in keeping with his reputation as a self-styled gentleman, he would open the car door for his guests. Oh, how great. Once they were seated, however, he would insist on fastening their seatbelt for them, reaching across their lap, brushing his hand across their breasts before putting the belt in the clasp. You look back and it's wackadoo, says one former Carolina employee. Quote, you felt preyed upon, you felt fear, you felt self-doubt, is what they said. Multiple former employees told SI that there were also occasional racial overtones in Richardson's interactions with his workers. Pressed for specifics, they cite everything from Richardson's expressed preference that black players not wear dreadlocks to an alleged request that an African-American employee applies sunblock to Richardson's face. Jesus Christ.
What?
Yeah, I know. And then I believe there's more as well. After that one. After drafting Cam Newton in 2011, Richardson memorably asked the player, did you get crazy after the draft and go out and get any tattoos or piercings? Do I have to check you for anything? Earlier this year, some Panthers expressed frustration when Richardson indicated that players addressing social issues could be subject to punishment. And then lastly, perceptions of casual racism hardened recently when multiple sources told Sports Illustrated Richardson directed a racial slur at an African-American scout for the Panthers. The scout left the team this year, but not according to sources, before he sought the counsel of a Charlotte attorney who negotiated a confidential settlement on his behalf. Contacted by SI and asked if he wished to comment, the scout responded, I'm not in a position to talk, which tells me personally, all right, it tells me personally that he wants to get back in the NFL. He wants to continue being a scout. And what do? You don't try to piss off somebody like Jerry Richardson, who is so well respected, that somebody like Jerry Jones has even gone out today, or was it last night, when he said that I'm sad that Jerry Richardson is putting the team up for sale. Nothing to do with the alleged reports of racial undertones.
There's many Jerry Richardsons in the NFL. That's why. Because if he wants to work for anyone else, people who maybe aren't as over the top with their feelings about women and minorities, he's like, oh, I can work in that atmosphere, although still uncomfortable, not over the top, overbearingly oppressive and racist. So that sucks. that again, this scout can't say anything. As far as one of the women that was harassed or assaulted, if she's trying to be anonymous, saying wackadoo will definitely show who you are, because no one else says wackadoo. I'll get beyond that.
That's true.
The degree to how this is gone. Also, there was parts about this article where he didn't force people to, but it was just known to call him Mr.
Yes.
Just Mr. Very close to Master. And also, just, I guess the openness in which this was done. You have assistants that are helping you lure women into your office. People knew about it once you go on a lunch date, but you don't say no. The tone of this entire work environment was do what he says, and if you don't, you will be working somewhere else. Or if you know what's good for you. Whatever the consequences may be for you. If you know what's good for you, you're gonna go ahead and go along with this. There's Fridays, I believe, was denim day.
Yes. Jeans.
And that's apparently his favorite day of the week. The reason that was implemented not was so there could be a comfortable work environment, but so that it was probably a more uncomfortable work environment, so that he can go around and comment on women's butts, ask how they got in those jeans. Did you have to lie down? Did you jump when you did it? Can you show me? Turn around and spin for me. Show me the backside. All this happened. this is obviously had been happening for years. Oh, and my star black quarterback that I drafted. Did you go out and do anything like mark yourself because you know you're mine? But Jerry Jones went out and said he's sorry to hear that his friend and good friend is selling his team because after he sells his team, he's going to be broke or his life is going to be over. He's 81 years old. Sad day that a racist is finally selling his team. One of probably many.
Cam Newton spoke on this in the post-game presser after Carolina's win over the Green Bay Packers yesterday. Take a look at that, and then we'll discuss.
I heard about it, but I haven't, really dug into it. And I just recently, seen the internal investigation about all that. But, one thing about it, man, Mr. Richardson has been an unbelievable source in my life. I can't really speak on nobody else. But I have conversations that, because in my life, it's hard for me to kind of talk to certain people with them not being able to understand where I'm coming from. And I found a place of a refuge, with Mr. Richardson. And with him being the Carolina Panthers, founder and owner, a lot of things come out, for him. But, as I, constantly play for this organization, I hear more and more things about him, the man that he is, what he's done for his family, what he's done for multiple families. So, like I said, I really haven't dug into the investigation or dug into the story, but I know personally for me, man, he's given me an opportunity to make a big impact in my family.
So it's weird because from what we're seeing with SI, right, he asked Cam Newton those questions with racial undertones. But then Cam Newton is going out and saying that he thanks Jerry Richardson for giving him an opportunity to play. A lot of other owners would have given him an opportunity to play, from what I remember. I'm not saying, you understand what I'm saying. So here's just my thing.
And that's his perspective. That's cool.
Totally. But what I'm hearing is he just doesn't want to upset anybody. That's all that I hear. And it's my opinion. I'm not saying that this is dead on. I'm not saying that my thoughts and opinions are completely accurate. But what I hear is someone who has been around the NFL for a long time. And look, Jay Cutler gets crucified for body language. Cam Newton gets put on this pedestal of just getting crushed over something he says, over what he wears, over his body language. Like, I can't remember the last time we, as a society, went after a quarterback for anything. So I hear two things, actually. One is he doesn't want to piss anybody off, and two, he doesn't want to have that happen to him once again, where he says something and everyone's like, oh my God, can you believe Cam Newton? Because that's just how I see it.
Stay right in the middle of the road right now is, I think, his thought process.
Sure.
Talk about the things that this owner, again, that he's done for you, giving you the opportunity to do this, has been nice to you. He hasn't seen this stuff. I believe him, fine. Everyone's experience is different. Now, again, I don't know Jerry Richardson, but I get the feeling if Cam Newton wasn't Cam Newton or didn't pan out to be who Cam Newton is on the football field, Jerry Richardson may not care so much about all the stuff he wants to do for you and your family. And that's cool. That's the business. We know how that works. So it's a two-way street. Jerry Richardson's good to you because you're good to him.
Yes, completely.
That's fine. That's the way the business is.
The players are always pawns.
Right.
Yes,
and that's cool. So when you haven't experienced the business side of things that happen day to day in the office, because your office is the football field or and then on Sundays, the game day. So that's fine. And I don't think he went this far. Cam didn't go this far to be like, I don't believe it. He just said, I keep hearing more things, and I'm hearing it, but I'm just saying from what I've seen. And that's fine. I think his statement was actually perfect. You can't come out and say things that you don't know yet or what you haven't experienced and then call for things to happen. That'll be determined by other folks. And as long as, now the only problem I would have is if then after hearing the reality of the situation come out, then you come out and say, I don't think he should do this because I don't think he should have to sell the team or step down or even be lambasted in the public eye because of me. No, there's other people in the world.
Right.
That would be the only time I'd have a problem.
There's something that struck me as a direct correlation to when we were starting to hear about Harvey Weinstein and Charlie Rose. And it's that there's always a pattern that a lot of these older men have. And there's always, like, the seatbelt maneuver just reminded me of, well, Harvey Weinstein has this thing where you go into his apartment or his house, and what does he do? He shows up in a robe. And, oh, Charlie Rose, what did he do? He was just naked and he had a robe on, and it was always the robe technique. Like, that's how I know that there's some validity to this, is that there's always something pervy that happens that is a pattern of them going over this misconduct over and over and over again.
Standard operating procedures, you see this stuff happen, you know, and it's sad, and again, maybe it's changing. That's the other thing, by the way. The surprise, we were talking about Cam Newton's response to it. The surprise, you can totally be surprised, but what you're gonna look at, if you look in your life, since high school on, you know, in a victim of assault, you know multiple, first of all, and you know a perpetrator of assault, guarantee you do. I know 2 that were the perpetrators. I found out later, and I couldn't do anything about it because the victim absolutely begged me not to. So they were friends of mine. You know, so they were good guys as far as I knew. You know why? Because I wasn't being assaulted by them.
Right, but you hit the nail.
So you can love someone and be like, oh yeah, we hung, we did this, we partied, we drank, we played football, we did this, whatever. They were bad guys in other aspects of their lives.
You hit the nail on the head, which is something that is really important that we'll end with, is that if anybody's reading this article, or if anybody read another article, they'll read it, they'll go, oh, it's bad, and then they'll move on. What they don't understand is the mental distress that goes through somebody who has been sexually assaulted or violated. A lot of these people who went in, a lot of these women who went in, said that they feared for their jobs because they didn't want to speak out. They feared for their lives being around him because they didn't know what sort of shit he was going to pull next. Imagine living with that fear every single time you go into work, and it's more than a 9 to 5. This is a football team, so you're probably there on Sundays as well. You're surrounded by not only the owner, but all the yes men and assistants that helped him with this sort of assault. So as you're reading this, try to keep into account as well the mental distress that a lot of the people, a lot of the victims have had to deal with. And not only that, but also the racial slur that he used allegedly to a scout. Imagine what they had to go through as well. So don't just read it and then glance over it.
And that's the owner. There's more people in this organization that once that atmosphere is set, other men that are of higher up, there's higher up people in this organization that go, oh, we can do this. Or then there's another guy that says, I can start calling people these names because look, the owner did it.
Yep.
He's not gonna do it. He's not gonna fire me over it. He does it.
Yes, completely.
So there's
and that's
more
the
than
culture
just one
that they
man
allow.
that's doing this.
Yeah, that's the culture they allow and enable. All right, let us know your thoughts. Comment section below. Subscribe to TYT Sports.